Hello guys, welcome to Aquiring Movement Skills screencast for tomorrow's revision session. Just a quick reminder that revision is at Worcester Sixth Form College in the huts. The huts are the only place you can go. There will be people marking lines on the car park, so be careful. You have to come straight to the huts. You can't go in the building. So I suggest you go for the toilet before you come, or be prepared to use the bushes. So if we go from here then, let's get on to the first question. So we're looking at our first one. So basically, using examples, explain part, progressive part, whole, and whole part, whole practice. Okay, you need to provide one advantage and one disadvantage for whole and part practice. Okay, so think about it. Translation words that you need to use that should help you throughout this. You've got your entirety, subroutine, chaining. The combination of those three words will give you the key kind of descriptors for each of the types of practice. And then evaluations you can pick. I suggest that your number one focuses are usually to do with A and C. They are the two key evaluation points for any type of practice. Okay, so see if you can work out what they are. So, going on from there then. Have a quick look, see if you've got it right. So, whole, skill practice entirety. So, you've got into here then. Better for autonomous performers or high ability. Okay, whole part whole then, so whole skill, identify weak subroutine, practice it, put back into whole, e.g. tennis, serve, ball toss, and then put it back into the whole thing. Okay, then you go down to here, isolate, separate subroutines, separate subroutines, back into whole practice. So then you're going down from there saying, right, what's it good for? So part practice particularly good for cognitive phase of learning, and then you go down to progressive part. You've really got a advantage and disadvantages for whole and part. Progressive part, isolate subroutines, and then progressively chain them together. Okay, so there's your key bits on there. Make sure you have each of the bits, so you have description of each of the types of practice, and then you do an example for each, and an advantage of whole, disadvantage of whole, advantage of part, disadvantage of part. Next question. 4 types of guidance then. So we've looked at these a lot. We haven't looked at these much at all recently. So 4 types of guidance. You need to provide one advantage, one disadvantage for each, and then you need to provide a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle example for visual and mechanical guidance. So key like triggers. So these you need to turn, this is the descriptive phrase for the 4 types of guidance. Can you work out what the 4 types of guidance are from those? Then can you try and give an example? Can you provide one advantage, one disadvantage? And then for visual guidance, can you give an example of that? How could visual guidance lead to the adoption of a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle? So how could we see something? And by what, through what means could we see something that could lead to us wanting to follow a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle? And then what could we, then you're looking at mechanical guidance, how could we kind of use kind of mechanical or equipment that could kind of feel the same as like what might be unhealthy but make us healthy? Have a quick read through there then. So I will just circle your bits. Obviously you got your you got to give each one advantage, one disadvantage. You can pick anything from there. Just quickly get onto the BAHL stuff then. So you've got here role model demonstrates functional behaviours such as healthy diet or exercise routines. You could have fitness DVDs. So for example, Davina McCall fitness DVD. That's kind of a visual representation of how you can have a healthy lifestyle. Then you go down to the mechanical. Now this is tough, but remember I did mention to you that mechanical, if you imagine an e-cigarette, you have the kind of physical property of a cigarette, you have the process of inhaling, so the kinesthesis is very similar, but it's a lot healthier version of it. Okay, so if you can kind of okay, so that's the guidance one done then. So moving on, now we go on to reaction time. So basically, reaction time, movement time, response time. You need to have a definition for each of those, and then you need to provide 3 factors that affect response time and explain how they affect it. So you've got the key for definitions for reaction time, movement time, response time is you must have the time between. Now then what you have to do is mix around 3 terms. Okay, the 3 terms: presentation of stimulus, start of movement, end of movement. You have to try and get the combinations that go from that to that. Okay, so then you need 3 factors that affect your response time. So if we go through to there, have a quick read through there. If you can put an example on as well, that just really makes sure it shows that you understand it. If we can do that for tomorrow, that'd be great. Factors affecting response time. You've got your selective attention, gender, age. It's not enough to just say those words. You have to say how those words will dictate whether the reaction time will slow up, speed down, Okay, so I suppose what you could say, if you're thinking about the main factor that affects response time, I mean, you only have to sit behind granny or granddad, or you go in a car with your granny and granddad, and the lights come on, go from red to green, and then they go back to green to red because they're so slow to respond. So if you think about the word age, okay, and when you have, as you get old, as you age, you begin to sag. Okay, so you've got SAG, selective attention, age, gender. Right, moving on. Next thing, 2 types of anticipation. Explain how anticipation affects performance. Now remember the memory method for anticipation. Anything that has the word anticipation, we respell anticipation to ampridipation. Okay, so if you look on there, ampridipation, what you need to do is they'll put that prediction into 2 types of anticipation. So what are they? Okay, so then can you explain, remember, anything that says explain how anticipation or explain how anything affects performance, that has no positive or negative connotation, so you have to do both. Okay, so let's have a look then. Predicting where and when something will happen before it takes place is anticipation general. Spatial is predicting where something will take place before it happens. Temporal is predicting when, e.g. start as gun. If you have correct anticipation, it gives it will decrease your reaction time or improve it, which will then also improve your performance. If you anticipate wrong, not only do you look stupid, but your reaction time is going to slow down and it can decrease performance. Okay, so explain the impact of the drive reduction theory on the adoption of a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. So what you're looking for here then, remember the memory method for drive reduction, okay, is you have to stick an I in front of drive. So it's the I drive reduction theory. So you split it up, you have an I drive, this is reduced Y. Okay, so I drive reduction Y. Going on from there then. Next one, initial drive to learn a new skill behaviour, e.g. gym membership. Okay, so you have the initial drive when you get that gym membership to go to the gym. This leads to, after you've mastered the drive or you've overcome the goal, it then leads to overlearning, grooving the skill, or the skill being too hard. Once the skill is overlearned, you can have like tedium. This can lead to something called inhibition, where you kind of lose that kind of motivation to kind of commit to something. So if you look at that then, drive reduction, decreasing motivation. So e.g. gym gets boring, difficult. Okay, so say for example you go to the gym, you run on the treadmill for 10 minutes for 6 weeks and you start to think, is this all there is to do? How do you prevent this drive reduction then? So once it's happened, new goals and targets must be set. So a personal trainer might suggest doing different classes, aerobics, yoga, body combat, whatever. Pick something you know and just say that would be an example of readjusting goals in order to re-motivate the individual. Okay, so going on from there then. Last one. So in order to... I didn't mean to put that straight on there. Critically evaluate motivation strategies and their effect on the adoption of a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. So the memory method for that, in order to motivate someone to lead a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle, the key thing they must do, they must have the internal or the intrinsic motivation and aspire to be better. So aspire gives you your acronym. From that, can you work out what the key strategy, motivational strategy is, and then from that, can you put a kind of contrasting connective in the middle way, saying, however, in contrast, because whatever the positive is, there's a direct opposite to the negative, which makes it a little bit easier to remember because you're chunking one thing that will give you 2 answers. So if you go through that, what we're looking for, achievable goals. Okay, if achievable goals are set, obviously motivation, e.g. if you walk for a minute long on a treadmill, that will help. However, if you don't, okay, if they're too difficult, somebody, you've never exercised before, 20 minutes on a treadmill, that could be too much. Significant others, okay, so role models should lead to kind of positive, it will lead to imitation. Basically, significant others are role models that kind of will lead to imitation of behaviour. So if you're imitating behaviour, that could be positive. For example, a young male look up to Johnny Wilkinson, young male may look up to Mo Farah and attempt to imitate their exercise and diet. Remember, you have to keep giving these examples of balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. However, a young male may be demotivated if they follow a negative role model. For example, they followed cycling all their life, they worship Lance Armstrong, they find out he's taken drugs, that might lead to them not want to take part in sport anymore, or even worse, it might make them want to imitate the drug taking he's done to be successful. Punishment then, okay, punishment is providing a negative stimulus, so this is usually used more with kind of elite performers within sporting environments. So examples you could use, 10 laps around the pitch for not doing something correctly, However, if it's overused, it can lead to decreased motivation for a cognitive performer, because obviously constantly being told you're bad at something can really affect your motivation to persist in a balanced, active, healthy lifestyle. Intrinsic motivation, all right, this is the absolute best one, the internal drive to succeed. And if you achieve something, so an example of that is self-fulfillment or enjoyment. Now, it's absolutely huge intrinsic motivation. It's why all of us do what we do in terms of exercise or a healthy lifestyle. You do it because you like it. There's very few of us who are lucky enough to get paid to do that. So if you can do something because you enjoy it and it fulfills you, that is the type of motivation that will ensure lifelong participation. So if you can do that and you're competing with yourself, you're enjoying taking part, that is way more likely to kind of lead to lifelong participation than it is if you're getting paid. That payment, we'll talk about that in a minute. Reinforcement, so there's 3 types of reinforcement you could use. Positive reinforcement, e.g. praise for eating healthily, certificate for eating healthily, that strengthens the SR bond towards the desired response. Negative reinforcement is taking away criticism of being lazy, or taking away criticism of it could be taking away the criticism or taking away negative comments based on people bullying someone for being overweight. And then finally, you've got, we talked about punish earlier, the final strategy is extrinsic motivation. Okay, so you have a quick look through that. Now, what's dangerous, remember I told you about that, if you take away the certificates or the money from somebody and that's the only reason they're taking part in a active lifestyle, then when you remove it, it can be dangerous because they might not start, they lose that intrinsic motivation they had in the first place.